Welcome, Jill.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thanks for joining us this morning. You've already spoken to our students.
I have.
I believe you described that as the Hunger Games.
It felt a little bit like that. I've never spoken to a room full of students. I will be honest. That was a first for me.
I thought the Hunger Games was quite apt.
It felt like, there was something quite at stake there, and I was trying to earn a nod, a glimmer of recognition. So interesting to see, young people process information and receive new information differently, I think. So,
Sure.
yeah, I was sort of... I was sweating up there, but I think in the end it felt like it went okay. So
It went fabulously.
yeah.
And then you've also spoken to our parents.
Yes, not so much the Hunger Games.
Not so much the Hunger Games. And I think the responses from both of those groups was pretty much, we want more.
Oh, wonderful.
Hence the fact for this morning.
Mm.
But before we get onto your book and the 10 permissions, a work like this obviously takes a tapestry of experiences, insights, turning points. So I wonder if we can't start by you just sharing your path to get you to where you are now.
Absolutely. I mean, you can hear by my voice that my path did not start here. It started back in America, Midwestern America of all places. Grew up in a very kind of middle-class, middle American home in the 1980s, and went off to university in Chicago. So
That was a tough time here in South Africa.
yeah, not so much in the States. That was sort of, boom time. Late 20th century. My father, he was one of the first of his generation to kind of do as well as he did. So I think that's actually a really important point, because that was part of that story that every generation was meant to do better. He had done better than his parents who had come to America from Ireland and Scotland. And then, the narrative that we were handed was, well, there you go. Here's the baton, run with it.
It must be bigger, it must be better,
Oh.
it must be faster.
Everything. You will have more. I will never forget, when he bought a Cadillac. And my grandmother came to visit, and she was so excited because her little boy had arrived. So, nobody needs to sit you down at a table and tell you that you're expected to have more, be more. It's part of the
those
DNA.
Unspoken expectations.
The unspoken expectations that every single one of us knows that we have in 1980s middle America. It felt like the sky was the limit, right? You could do just about anything if you looked like me. And, I went to a great university. The expectation was that I was going to go to law school and become this shiny, high-flying lawyer. At the time, that was still a very highly respected, high-status career. And I kind of blew it up. I, for reasons I can partially explain, I was at university and I was starting to look out at the world. There was a lot of change going on, as you've already referenced here. And I started to feel like I wanted a different kind of more. For me, I didn't sit there and go, ooh, I want a bigger, brighter Cadillac. I was like, I want to be out there. I want to see the world. I want to be a part of making it better in my own ill-formed way. So,
which is quite a turning point within your family.
oh,
Quite a brave decision.
yeah, and I talked to the kids about that. Yeah, I mean, I can literally still remember sitting around the kitchen table more than once with my parents, and I can see my father's face when I'm like, I want to go to South Africa. I can also remember how hard it was to get those words out of my mouth.
How did that conversation just suddenly happen? I mean, did you think about it for a while? Was it just off the cuff?
No. I put it off for a very long time.
Okay. I want to go to South Africa.
Yeah. I mean, silence.
And he was like, okay.
What? South Africa? It was disbelief, confusion. And the thing was, I couldn't really sell it very well. I couldn't frame it. I couldn't pitch it. I couldn't make it sound like it was, yeah, you see, I'm going to, there was no way that was going to be a stepping stone to his version of more. Unless, I tried to sort of say, oh, well, I'll get an internship with a human rights organization, and then I'll come back, and that'll look great on my CV for law school. They weren't even buying that. So, one of the things I told the kids about was, yeah, you have uncomfortable conversations when you start to come into yourself and have ideas and aspirations that look nothing like the people around you. And most of us stifle those because we're afraid of that kitchen table conversation.
Absolutely. Very relevant for our young people today, very relevant for parents to hear this. So you came to South Africa.
I did.
When was that?
93.
93.
Yeah. It wasn't, there were things that made it easier. One of my professors from university was married to an Afrikaans woman. He was actually doing his thesis around sort of, an issue related to South Africa. So they hosted me. I had a place to stay. I had a soft landing in Joburg, in Melville. But off I went. And it was so interesting for me because obviously I didn't know what to expect. I traveled to France once on an exchange, but that was it. Yeah. And I took it all in. It was fascinating to me.
And what did you do in South Africa in those early years?
So I did get an internship with a human rights organization.
Oh, wow.
It was Lawyers for Human Rights, which I'm not even sure it still exists, but at the time was a very prominent anti-apartheid organization. Managed to get a role doing voter education in prisons, which, as that phrase comes out of my mouth, I was really excited. I thought it was amazing. I'd never stepped foot in a prison before in the United States, and if anybody had asked me to, I probably would have been horrified. But I was like, yeah.
But it's really relevant. I mean, that was South Africa's first democratic elections. So, that's an extremely relevant thing for you to be involved in.
It was incredible.
You were also involved in HIV/AIDS?
Much later. So, yeah. So, I managed then to get a job with an American NGO, very well funded by the U.S. government, that was doing a lot of programming across Africa. And so one thing led to another. Eventually took me to Zimbabwe to work on HIV/AIDS a bit later, yeah.
And you haven't left?
I did leave, actually. I left very burnt out. I had just was about to turn 30. So I spent pretty much a decade. My 20s were spent wandering around Africa, doing lots of weird and wonderful things in the field of human change, social change. And then I started to ask questions about whether it was working, how it was working, whether it was all it was cracked up to be. And so I took time out and left.
Okay. And when did you come back?
We came back, dates. So Luke, my son, who was at the school, was about 3. Aiden had just turned 1. I'd met my South African husband in London, so obviously all roads were leading me back.
You met your South African husband in London?
I did. So clearly this is where I was meant to be. I submitted to the reality that my life was meant to be in South Africa.
This makes sense because you're known as a script flipper.
I am.
Okay, yes.
I flipped, and I'm flipping and flipping and flipping.
Flipping and flipping.
So we flipped it and came back and wanted to raise the boys here. And I wanted to kind of get my feet on the ground here again. I've always felt a great sense of connection to South Africa and ease here in terms of the people. They're not wildly dissimilar to the ones I grew up with in terms of how they live and people's perspectives. So yeah, I felt a great sense of relief when we came back. It felt a little bit like a homecoming for me.
And now we live in a rapidly changing world. It's often referred to as a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. And we're trying to raise young people. We're trying to raise young citizens, which is challenging for myself in education. It's challenging for you as a parent. It's certainly challenging for the students. And there's just so much anxiety around achievement, anxiety around getting into tertiary institutions, around what am I going to be? These defaults, as you call them, a sort of a default mode of what has to be done in order to survive and do well. So it's this very complex, I think a lot of fear-based.
Oh, very much so.
At the moment. So how does your kind of 10 permissions, how does that relate to this complex world?
Yeah. So I think The way I think about it is that we're moving into a period of novel choices. So a lot of the choices that I made, my son might not make. He might not want to make. It might not be in his best interest to make. So things that used to be
It
required.
might have changed before he even gets to make them.
Absolutely.
It's very-
Those same
it's-
choices might not even exist. But things that used to be seen as requirements are no longer so. So the way I describe it is we used to live in a world of sort of requirements and guarantees. If I go to university, then I will
It's
get a
very
job.
linear.
Yeah, very linear, very, I felt I could make a few calculated choices that would buy me a predicted outcome. A job, a good job. And that was our preoccupation.
And you would stay in that job
Absolutely.
for 40 years.
Right, because you earned security by doing so. So your strategy was, avoid change, avoid risk, because loyalty and compliance bought you more money, more status, eventually the gold watch or the pension fund. So your strategy was, stay the course. We all know that strategy no longer exists, okay? Either by choice or, again, by force. Change is so much more a part of our lives. So my point with the 10 permissions is we are living in a fluid world. We have to make our lives more fluid to go along with it, more agile, more adaptive, more responsive. And that requires permission because we are not wired to change. We have not been trained for this moment.
Permission from who?
Ourselves. That long career that I kind of hinted at in change across Africa and then Asia and Europe taught me that the key to change is self-permission. There is no growth or change without self-permission. I have to green light my own choice to say, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take that course. I'm going to go to that networking meeting. I'm going to, try out something. I'm going to, make something through AI and see if it might work. I have to decide that as an adult. Nobody can sit me down and say, Jill, come now. It's time for you to do this. As a child, they could potentially. As an adult, it's up to me.
And what about our teenagers? Grade 10, 11, 12, they're applying to varsity, trying to get good marks in grade 11. What permission can they give themselves? What permission can parents give themselves?
Yeah, might not want to hear this, but I think to kind of accept a little bit the not knowing. So you have to work with a different sort of mindset in moving through this, which is you are probably working in shorter time frames, so you don't know what 10 years from now looks like. You can't make, bets on what you think is going to keep you in a role or in a career.
Which is something both teachers and parents need to internalize.
Absolutely. All you can do is make what looks to be like the best choice for now. And for me, the best choice for a young person, rather than a role or an identity, is probably related to a skill set. So I talk a lot, and I talk to both the kids and the parents about this kind of, pulling apart our identities from our roles. So, rather than saying I'm going to become an accountant, say I'm going to study accounting, and with that, I'm going to head out into the world with that accounting degree in my toolkit. I talk to the kids a lot about sort of imagine you've got a toolkit and you're filling it up. And then
you also talk about a portfolio.
Yeah. So I think that's super important as part of this. Those tools become part of a portfolio that you are building. You have a mindset towards building a diverse set of capabilities, experiences, networks.
And this is something parents could help their children with, because I think parents and teachers feel helpless. So, what can we do? We don't know if we can get them top marks, but maybe what we can do is help them build this portfolio, help them network, help them job shadow, help them get involved in the community, build skills. Perhaps these are things which parents could do.
Yeah.
And might lessen anxiety.
Yeah, I think we need, get a good job was sort of the prescription we were handed. And now I think we need to put that aside. Because your future will not be attached to a single job. It might not even be a job. Work might look like you doing a variety of different things. So as you say, and I'm a parent of a grade 11, so I understand this, but I observe it, I experience it. We start to go very narrow with, okay, what's your job going to be? Fine, I get it. But understand that the future might look like that young human making a livelihood for him or herself through a variety of different means. And as you say, so your network matters. What you do in your spare time matters, because maybe some of those capabilities you earn on the tennis court or the golf court or in the music hall will serve you. This idea that nothing matters except this thing that I'm going to monetize, I think is now something we need to just loosen our grip on. And as you say, relax a little bit into the fact that there are a variety of things that you will be employing to help yourself build this portfolio with that toolkit in it and move out into the world.
Certainly. So I know today is not necessarily to sell your book.
No, but why not?
Why not?
Why not?
It's an excellent book, and thank you for the opportunity to pre-read it.
Of course.
I'm certainly going to treasure this copy, but we don't have time to go through all of the 10 permissions. I would highly recommend that people go through them very carefully. But perhaps could you pick out 1 or 2 or maybe even 3, if you don't mind giving too many tips, but which ones stand out for you? And I think if we can look specifically here in for parents and teachers, sort of that.
Yeah. I always start at the beginning. It's hard for me not to, with number 1, which is be willful.
Be willful.
Right. And of course that's
you see, now students immediately would relate to that. Be willful, take accountability, agency.
Of course.
I'm not always sure maybe how educators and parents feel about that permission.
No, they don't. They're afraid of it. We're afraid of it. I will own that as a parent. There's something scary about your child's will, about your child's want. And our entire programming and our entire conditioning has been to try to control and shape that so that it matched a role that was waiting for them out there, a thing that they would become.
That's true. So we're so used to shaping them.
And so this is a really important thing, Tasman, that I think all of us are wrapping our heads around. That from, for the last 50 years, we have been raising young humans to fit ready-made roles. Component labor, as a man who I greatly admire describes it. It was first within factories, it was then within corporates. Those are disappearing. Okay, AI is taking them. Other factors are flattening out corporates. They're not getting bigger, they're getting smaller. And so the whole strategy of gradual institutional advancement, which shaped our thinking, and shaped our understanding that we had to shape the will of a young human to fit into that role. When those roles disappear and that young human has to go out into the world and figure out what he or she wants to do, and it's not a ready-made role, they've got to either create it or co-create it or go look for something that looks similar to it. They need to know what they want. And it's hard for us. But I think age-appropriate agency is critical. And we can talk a lot more about that at some other time. But I think we as adults often have an instinct to feel that a young person's will is a dangerous thing, that is going to get them into trouble, or it's going to, go to my second permission, lead them astray.
Or we're going to lose control.
Absolutely. It's all about control for all of us. And I think for me as a parent, it's this constant sort of negotiation, mostly with myself, around how much am I willing to allow for failure, for mistakes, for confusion, for anger, for my children to have their own opinions, for my children to question me.
Because suddenly agency is actually a skill we need in a VUCA world.
Absolutely.
And by not allowing them to be willful, we restrict agency.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of people out there now saying agency trumps intelligence. I mean, intelligence is now no longer has the value it once had.
Well, intelligence, unless it's applied, means very little.
It means very little.
So you need agency in order to apply it.
And just to be clear, when we talk about agency, it's the ability to make choices and act on them, right? And what we do is, raise young people to always sort of ask for permission to act. And in the book, I describe that as the permissions paradigm. So young people up to a certain age always have to ask permission, particularly if it's something that puts them just outside of whatever the existing, norm is or what everybody else is doing. As young adults, we don't always prepare them to say, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to do. It doesn't mean it's going to work out, but I'm going to allow myself to pursue that because in the process, I'm going to learn so much.
And Jill, I want to bring out a controversial permission, because I think we may as well do so in a safe space.
Let's go.
But your sixth permission says, forget about the future.
Yes.
Now, that is going to ruffle feathers.
Yeah.
Amongst teachers and amongst parents.
Yeah.
Forget about the future.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, obviously deliberately so.
Education has spent 300 years preparing ourselves to teach students about the future.
Yeah.
So where does that come from?
Yeah, so I think, again, in a linear, predictable world, we believed that we could predict the future, even though we couldn't. We never have been able to, actually. But we could kind of bank on the fact that it would be a version of the current, that trends would repeat themselves. And, one of the things I show to people now is this graph that McKinsey did on the sort of rate of change. And, it's like this. To sit right now and claim that let's start next year, let's just start there. So, the 5-year plan was always the standard, that you should have that window. I think anybody who says they know what 5 years from now looks like, particularly a young person, particularly one of us, maybe there are people sitting elsewhere with more modeling, tools at their disposal to try and have a sense of what's happening. But we can't work deductively like we used to. We can't make choices only when we think we know what the outcome is going to be. That's really critical. I will only do this if I know that it's going to have a beneficial outcome that I feel like I can kind of predict. We don't know that anymore. So we have to get far more comfortable at acting without a guarantee, at taking small risks. Sometimes big ones. That's really uncomfortable for us. And obviously, we want to have a sense. What I describe in the book is sort of a direction rather than a destination mindset.
I like that, a direction rather than a destination mindset.
So I want to have a sense of a general direction I want to head. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like when I get there because it's so rapidly changing I can't predict that. But I'm going to head in this general direction. I like to work with food. I think I might want to open a restaurant. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to start heading there and gathering in my toolkit, building my portfolio to do that. Along the way, I'm super aware of what I'm learning and what is changing as I go. So I describe it as having sort of big intentions, but having super sharp attention to what's right around you so that you can remain as adaptable and nimble as possible.
Now, this all sounds fantastic.
But
what is your recommendation to students, and I'm talking senior students. I'd really like to focus on grade 11 and grade 12. Practically, what does this look like? What can our grade 11s and 12s do to decrease this huge sense, this dark cloud that often hangs over them of expectation? What can our parents actually do to help themselves and help their youngsters?
Yeah, I think we've already touched on some of that in terms of taking the pressure off single decisions that we perceive as being unbelievably high consequence. You have to get this right. You have to pick the right, major or whatever you call it here. You've got to get the right degree. If you don't get the
So
right...
you've got to get into the right varsity.
Yeah, everything is right.
Okay.
So this idea that there is a turnkey to rightness that will protect you and keep you safe, I think let's loosen our grip on that, because by doing that, we accept the fact that we are going to make choices now.
So what happens if students don't get into the university they want to? What happens if they don't get into the course that they want to?
They wake up the next day, get so excited about the fact that they live in a world where there are 1,000 ways forward and none of them is right anymore. So there are people out there who know far more than me saying, university is a waste of time. It's a waste of money. Gosh, there are so many things you can do to start moving forward that aren't that. So we are still heavily imprinted with that is, a turnkey to something better. Yes, it might be, but it might not be. So once we accept the fact that it's no longer the golden door through which opportunity lies, we accept the fact that maybe there are other options. What I say in the book is don't pretend you only have 2 options when you actually have 20. Okay, so there are 20 options open to any young person right now for how they might want to move forward. University is no longer a requirement. It is a beneficial choice for many, many people for a lot of reasons. So I'm not saying don't do it. But what I am saying is don't assume that it's buying you something that will be your golden ticket to security.
And don't assume there's only one tertiary institution or one course.
No.
So in a sense, you're saying that the students, as well as the parents and teachers, we almost have to give permission to let them follow a path as it evolves for them over time.
Yeah. So,
because that's very scary.
Of course it is. But, we were always doing that. We just believed that there was this one path. And if we followed it, we would be safe. So that story has unraveled around us, and we know it. And part of the point of the book is to say, okay, that's unraveled. So let's stop hanging on to it and acting like it's the only thing that's right and worrying about what other people will think if our child doesn't do that, what it will look like for them. I talk in the book about this move from sort of following the way. So the way was get the good grades, go to the good university, get the good job, you're set. That's gone as a guarantee. It still might work for you, but it's not a guarantee. Find your way because you can and because increasingly you have to. So let's take this one step further, which is the other problem that if you've prepared your young person to believe that that varsity place is their golden ticket, and when they walk out and they find that nobody's, running up to them offering them jobs, that the world is far more complex than they thought it was, and that there isn't any certainty in this world. They've got to find their way because they do after varsity. You haven't prepared them. Our job right now is to prepare them for this world, not protect them from it. So how do we do that? By letting them find their way. It's really hard. It's a practice. It's not some sort of golden, aha moment. It's like, whew, and, I'm finding it hard. I'm not suggesting that I have all the answers. But I equally, respect the fact that Luke is stepping out into a world that looks nothing like mine. So how can I sit here and tell him that if he only does that, that's his only choice? That seems like I'm limiting him unnecessarily.
And your book is dedicated to your children.
It is.
I think you've said that for Luke and Aidan, never stop listening to your inner DJ.
Yes.
That's a great way of putting it. Never stop listening to your inner DJ. If you could choose one of your 10 permissions that you wish your children would take and run with immediately, which one would it be?
Make believe, because that's
the 10th.
That's the 10th one, and that's what's related to that DJ comment. I talk about that. So make believe is make things you believe in and believe you can make things.
Just say that again.
So make things you believe in. So I like this. It's good. It doesn't have to be big. But yeah. And believe that you can make things. So this is a critical thing. And again, I think this is very important for us as parents, teachers, adults in the room. Again, we are not preparing kids to fit into job slots that have already been there for them, and all they've got to do is press play and keep doing the same thing for the rest of their lives. They are going to have to be far more creative in how they apply their portfolio to a variety of different situations. A mindset that's sort of, how do I come up with a new solution or a new response to an old problem? How do I make something? And the example or the description I use in the book is think like a DJ. So it doesn't have to be brand new. I don't have to create it from scratch. I can take things that are already there. I can build from what's around me. I can make things that work for a specific situation, for a specific client or whatever, but I am mixing and remixing and creating new as I go.
It's that agility again. Flexibility, adaptability, agility. And Jill, I'm sure a lot of people are listening to this, and they're asking, well, what next? How can we find out more? When is your book coming out?
It's officially released in the U.S. in September. On September 16th. In South Africa, my publisher does not have foreign rights here. So I am the publisher of my own book here, the master of my own destiny. So I am actually selling the book here.
Okay. How can people get it?
They can get it via me. They will soon be able to get it through Amazon here, but that takes a little bit of time. At the moment, I am a sole proprietor selling my own book, but it will soon come online, and it's already available on Amazon.com in the US if they happen to want to get it there. I also want to say that on top of this, what I'm doing quite intentionally with this is creating a community. And I really want to speak to parents about this because I think it's really hard right now.
So creating a community, what do you mean by that? How?
I have a WhatsApp group that
A WhatsApp group.
Yes, God knows parents need more WhatsApp groups, don't they? But I'm trying to gather people to kind of say we don't have to do this alone. I think a lot of people feel very alone in trying to find their way through this VUCA world. Wondering if it's okay, wondering if they're doing it okay, wondering if their kid's okay. And
add a very scary economic climate, global leadership,
everything.
Which is unpredictable. So many global wars at the moment.
Everything. And I think, parents feel very afraid to be open about their fears. They worry that they will be judged, or they worry that somebody else's kid's got it all figured out and theirs is struggling, yada, yada, yada. So, in particular with parents, but I will also have a group for young adults, is to kind of say we don't have to give ourselves permission alone, and try and figure this all out on our own.
So parents can actually sign up to join this WhatsApp group.
They can.
And does that look like a conversation? What does that look like?
At the moment, it looks like me kind of sharing content, opening it up occasionally for dialogue and conversation. My intention over time is to make available resources, much like you described, to kind of help on a super practical level young people plan their lives in a slightly more intentional way than maybe they have before, beyond get a good job. So to build that portfolio, to think about their lives differently, like we need help. We don't have the old prescriptions to hand them. So I want to provide a community that makes you're not alone, that allows you to access things that might give you concrete support to, help you guide them.
Obviously, we've spoken a lot about resources, and you've given a lot of advice. You've spoken about your parent WhatsApp group. What about resources for young people?
Yeah, to me, that's possibly closest to my heart, because I think it's really incumbent upon all of us to make sure these kids can find their way. And I have recently sort of partnered up with a super cool young man who started his own sort of community of young people across South Africa, which he's taking off to the US as well. He's my partner in this, which I'm super excited about, because I didn't think that I would necessarily be the one to be the face of the teen group. But so he's got a network in place, and we're partnering together to look at how we, again, provide practical emotional support to young people to make their way through this this daunting time in their lives when they're expected to know everything and have all the answers, and they don't. And so again, I want that group to be a place where young people can come and feel like they can support each other, to kind of dig in a little bit to what is it I want to do in a world that's inviting me to do so many different things that maybe my parents don't understand. Maybe I don't have a way to articulate it yet. That it will really be a place of both practical and sort of, inspirational, emotional support.
And then, of course, you're available to talk to groups of parents, talk to students. You can go back to the Hunger Games. You're willing.
I'll go back. I am set now. Having done it once, I feel like I can walk into that arena again.
Okay. And people can contact you directly to make any of those
Oh,
arrangements.
absolutely. I mean, I've been working with groups and individuals my entire career, and I feel like this is just such a brilliant moment for us to come together and have really open conversations about how we navigate this world. It is not business as usual. And I think the sooner we can start having really productive, open, explicit conversations about a new way of operating in a world that's requiring it and allowing it. How do we take advantage of that? How do we turn that fear that you referenced into a sense of excitement for our kids? An opportunity. Yeah. I don't want to send my children out into the world feeling afraid of it. I want them to go out feeling capable and confident and, yes, even courageous to do things that they feel they want to do to best thrive in this world.
Jill, thanks so much for this conversation.
It's such a
as
pleasure.
always, there's so much food for thought, and there's so much to take further.
Great.
Are you open to a second conversation at some stage?
Let's keep going.
Good.
Any day.
And we've got it on camera, so we'll definitely be hearing from you again.
Great.
Thank you
so much for the opportunity.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.